It's great to see you back on Statistics Made Easy. In this primer, we are going to look into panel data and panel regressions. A panel means that you're observing a certain unit over time. For example, you're observing a firm over time, an individual over time, or even our ice cream parlor over time. Let's see how we need to structure our data before we can get started running regressions using panel data. To begin with, I need to ensure that my data is structured in the right format. In my example here, I have employee data, let's say, and each row in my data is one employee. And this employee is uniquely identified by the employer contract they have. For example, the first row is the first employee, 1_PDF is the contract of employee number 1, and then the second row is employee number 2. In my columns, I then have the time varying variables. In this case, it is the average hourly wage of my employees in T1, T2, T3. So these are my time variables. For example, my first employee, number 1, has an average salary of 100 euros in T1 and 120 euros in T2. The first step before we can run a panel regressions data is to reshape that data from the wide format in which it is currently to the long format. That means I need to convert the columns into rows. I can use Stata's inbuilt reshape command to achieve this. I use reshape and then I specify the format that I want to convert my data into, which is in my case long. And then I specify all the variables that will become panel variables, that is all the time varying variables. For example, my employee underscore T variable is one of these variables that I observe over time. There's a different value at each point in time. I don't add the number, just be careful here, so it's only employee underscore T without the number, and Stata will automatically convert those numbers into rows in my final data set. As you see here on the right, I now have 1, 2, 3. These are the numbers that were previously part of the column name in my original wide format data set. And all the values that were previously columns are now in rows so that I observe this unit over time. I have 3 time periods, and for each time period I observe the hourly wage. In my command, I specify the unique identifier after the option in the I parenthesis. That's our contract ID. It's a unique identifier that must not appear multiple times. So make sure you observe each employee only once. And then the time is a new variable that is created, and you can give it a name of your choosing, either time, date, or any other variable name you choose. Once we have our data in the long format, and be sure that we have one time unit observation only, so not multiple observations for each time period, for example, then we can go on and tell Stata that now the panel is in the right format, and I can use the xtset command. The xtset command that you see here in the second step is first the unique identifier, for example, my firm ID, my employer ID, or the parlor where I sell my ice cream. So that is my unit of observation, followed by my time variable. Just be careful, Stata cannot deal with string variables for these xtset commands. That is when I have a string variable, like here I have the string PDF in my variable. Then I need to first create a numerical variable, which I can do using theegen and group command. And that will then create that new variable ID underscore num, which is the same as contract ID, just as a numerical variable. With that xtset command, I'm now ready to run regression analyses using panel data. The command structure is very similar to my regular regression commands. Previously, we always used the regress command, and now we simply add an xt in front of the command, xtreg short for xtregress. And then the structure is exactly the same. I have my dependent variable, my independent variable, and Stata automatically takes care of the time series structure in my data. So this is the most important step when working with panel data, that you define the right format prior to beginning, and that you set the struct or the command with that xtset command prior to beginning. Thanks for watching, and now let's switch over to Stata and implement it hands-on on our dataset.